Our next session will be with Mihail Mativ, and he'll be taking us through, talking us more like presenting to us about the Azure Cosmos DB serverless, and it's titled Azure Cosmos DB serverless unleashed. So, hi, Mihail.
Hello,
Hello, welcome.
thank you for the invitation. I'm really very happy that I can join this awesome Cosmos DB conference.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here. Looking forward to the presentation.
This presentation is on one of my favorite areas related to uh, serverless mode. Serverless mode for Cosmos DB is relatively new. It is in general availability from several months. Before it was in preview for a while, and it gives very good opportunity to have different applications in different segments where Cosmos DB in the past was not so popular. I will try to make several interesting points of discussion. First, we will talk about what exactly we consider as serverless, how we will optimize the price, because it is one of the main benefits, of course, for this mod for Cosmos DB. And we will talk about some use cases and several demos. I will start for a few seconds with a few words about Cosmos DB. Cosmos DB, as all of attendees here probably know, is multi-model polyglot database, and till last year, most of workloads were focused on actually solutions with provisioned throughput, where we have guaranteed throughput for our workloads. And when we have usage of Cosmos DB, we needed to reserve this throughput. It was possible to change it depending on what exactly we want. It was possible to make this programmatically or to use autopilot mode, but it was actually quite often my consideration that we need to think about usage of throughput and how long we need to use our Cosmos DB containers. So this is probably the most important, which we will discuss now. Which are use cases, how exactly we can optimize the cost using serverless, and how we can use this in different scenarios. Before to continue, I will just mention two more things, because serverless often is considered in different contexts, and it is sometimes confusing for people. Cosmos DB is serverless in two different aspects. First, Cosmos DB is platform as a service. That means you have no need to think about infrastructure. You use this component without to think exactly how Cosmos DB works behind the stage. From another hand, related to billing perspective, we have two different modes. Serverless, which is the main point of presentation now, and provision throughput mode, which is actually the initial mode supported from Cosmos DB from the beginning, where we allocate certain amount of capacity. So billing of Cosmos DB is related to normalized request units. And Cosmos DB in serverless mode is related to how much request units we will use, and we will pay for used request units. I would like just to remind that for provisioned throughput, we had guarantee throughput with settings which we have for our containers, and we pay hourly for this throughput. And if we have changes of these throughput settings in our containers in specific timeline, which is less than 1 hour, we pay for the highest throughput. That means we need to think always how to optimize this cost regarding to throughput. Now, with Cosmos DB serverless mode, we have no need to think about such kind of additional logic. It is absolutely possible to use serverless mode and to forget for changing of throughput. How it works, we will talk during the next minutes. When we need to use provisioned mode. Provisioned mode is for highly load critical workloads. For such kind of critical workloads, it is important to have guaranteed throughput. When we have provision throughput, it is also possible to use free tier, and free tier allows limited resources, which are fine for some small projects, for development, for learning of Cosmos DB. When we have serverless mode, in this case, we have actually throughput which is not specified. We have this serverless mode from the beginning when we create Cosmos DB account. I will show a little bit later this in demos. And in this case, we have some limitations. Yes, it is not possible to have multi-region deployment. It is possible to have only one region for Cosmos DB account. Zone availability is possible. We have a limit of 50 gigabytes storage per container, and our throughput cannot exceed 5,000 request units per second, but it is not something which we can change and specify. For zone availability, it is very good that we can have such kind of availability already for serverless, because high available applications are also important for different scenarios. When we have Azure Cosmos DB serverless, it is not possible to add regions in this mode or to create it. And we will see this, of course, when I go through demos. What is additionally important? It is possible for provision throughput to have most of scenarios which you have for provision throughput to have all scenarios considered in different business use cases. For serverless throughput, we need to think about options where we have not predictable load, and in general, our workloads are not critical, not very high loaded. This is very important for solutions like back office. In our experience, back office applications are one of applications where we can use serverless mode in very successful scenarios, and it is possible to have Cosmos DB competitive to other databases for applications where you have several users, you have not very high load, or this high load is for just small amount of time. Very often in the past, it was really not the best option to manage back office applications using Cosmos DB because of continuous case to optimize the consumption based on changing of throughput. Now we have no need to think about such kind of considerations. When we have in such applications attempts to change the throughput, Cosmos DB returns error, and we will see how it works in different scenarios using demos. It is not possible to try programmatically to change the throughput of containers using Cosmos DB. It is not possible also to create shared throughput databases in a serverless account. It is something which will return error. And as I already mentioned, we have limitation about the size. What is the main specific for serverless, excluding optimization of price when we have unpredictable load for our solutions? We have small specifics in performance, but you difficulty can recognize this difference in performance if you have no very high loaded applications. That means latency in serverless mode, especially when we have writes, can be a little bit higher, but in general, again, I will demonstrate this. We cannot recognize difference in most of popular scenarios. And depends on what load is expected, serverless mode can be cheaper and more efficient, or we can have comparable or even higher than provision throughput when we have critical workloads. Here are examples. In first example, we have workload where is expected to have 20 million request units per month. And we have no very high requirements about throughput. It will be not more than 500 request units. In such kind of comparison, you see that we have nearly 6 times more effective from the cost perspective solution when we have serverless mode. In the second example, we have a workload where expected monthly load is 250 million request units. In this case, already serverless mode stay a little bit more expensive, so we need to have the right estimation regarding to the price. For use cases which we have, I will have a short overview. Serverless mode is very good when we start to work with Cosmos DB, when we learn some specifics of the platform, when we do development, when we have unpredicted workload, and when we have low peaks regarding to the timeline for the overall timeline when we use specific workloads. It is also very efficient for any kind of internal applications, usually in enterprise, we have a lot of applications for internal usage, which are with not very high load, like front office applications for many users workload. Sorry. There is very good integration between different serverless components like Azure Functions and Cosmos DB in serverless mode. Why? Because the concept is pretty similar. We have um, again situation where we have optimization of the resources, and when resources are not used, we have offload of specific resources. What additionally we have for our solutions? When need to create new solutions with serverless mode, we need, after choosing a serverless, to be aware that we have only zone availability and we have limited settings for our containers. Now, I would like to show you several demos. First demo is related to a situation where we have set up with table API. We have table API, which is used with Cosmos DB account, and this Cosmos DB account will be used in two different modes with provisioned throughput, and we will have a second application where we will demonstrate the same with serverless mode. When we run this solution in case when we have provision throughput, we have, in this case, I will change the font, numbers for operations like insert, replace, delete for items in our table, and we will compare the same with options when we will use serverless mode. This is the second application. It is in serverless mode. This is normal setup with average load. We have a scenario where we have 100 rows inserted, replaced, delete, and we can see now numbers. Numbers are pretty similar. Why? Because in non-critical workloads, it is not possible to have a very big difference between latency, which we have for serverless mode, and provision throughput. The next demonstration is related to option when we have solution and we are trying to change the throughput of our collections. You see, in this situation, we have throughput which can be changed in normal provisioned mode. When we start this application and we use provisioned throughput, I will try to run. second to make it in debug mode. And you will receive error because actually it is not possible to change the throughput using such kind of scenario. So these are specifics which I would like to share regarding to Cosmos DB in serverless mode. You are able to use Cosmos DB in serverless mode using different APIs. It is not only for core SQL API, so you are able to use also table API, you are also able to use Cassandra in this mode, and you are able to optimize your applications when you have unpredicted, not critical workloads, and when you are in situation to use applications for internal use. We have a lot of scenarios for back office, for financial solutions and different kind of solutions related to enterprise, where now already Cosmos DB is used in serverless mode. We switch the usage of Cosmos DB from provision throughput to serverless mode, and our customers are very happy. This is the most important which I wanted to share for this presentation. Serverless mode can help you to save money and to think less about how to optimize your solutions. If you have any questions, I will be glad to answer your questions.
Oh, thanks, Mihail. I think it was really thanks a lot for the session and presentation. I really loved it. I loved the whole startup of actually introducing everyone to Cosmos DB and having that pause with how it's about Azure Cosmos DB, serverless, and all of that. And I think it's one thing really is, Dilip, I know you agree with me, is I think it's one thing we see a lot, like, with customers and people that use this, understanding like, throughput, RUs, and when to go serverless and when not to. And with that, I think explaining that with critical workloads and all of that, and seeing how we kind of like integrate with the different like the different APIs that we use. I'm curious too. You talked about like critical workloads and non-critical workloads, and you talked about like customers that use it using serverless for like banking sectors and all of that. Do you mind going into that a little bit for how they use? Yeah.
Exactly. You know that all enterprise companies have different systems which are related to a huge amount of data processing for specific timeline, usually are considered like critical, and for such kind of workloads is better to have provision throughput, especially regarding to banking solution. Core banking solution is different story. Cosmos DB, in our experience, is mostly related to non-core banking systems. There are a lot of systems around core banking functionalities related to transactions with payments. These solutions are more related to solutions about reporting, about different back office functionalities, because Cosmos DB can be used in many cases comparable to relational databases. We have flexible schema, but we have schema. It is possible to make applications where easy to read and write your data, and you have flexible options to control this data structure. I see here some questions. If we have time, I can answer regarding to education and Cosmos DB. Because actually I also do lectures in university, in Sofia University in Bulgaria, and we have two different courses related to big data and business intelligence. And in these courses, Cosmos DB is included like part of core program for education. So we have samples not only with relational databases, but also we demonstrate how multimodal polyglot database like Cosmos DB can be used in such scenarios.
Okay, thank you. I think that's really cool to see how it's how it's been included into like class curriculums for students, and you kind of like get that kind of like experience actually even before you go out of school. Thanks a lot, Dilip. What? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Mihail, you hit the nail on the head. When the traffic is unpredictable or it is intermittent or the systems are not used continuously, it is idle for a long time. I think the way you put it out is actually a perfect fit for serverless. And also for when you're introducing this to college students and people who are trying it out new, it is very difficult for them to come up with what will be their load in the future. So they can start with serverless, get an idea, get a look and feel of what their to be load is going to be, and then they can plan for whatever works for them from a cost perspective, how the application is used, and whatever is the ways and means how things work, right? So I think excellent session, and I really enjoyed all the tips and the information that you provided. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for invitation. It was an honor for me to join this conference.
Thank you.
Same here. Thanks a lot.